The book is available everywhere. The Lion and the Bear, 100-day guide for facing your giants.
God really cares about you.
Yeah.
Like he sees you. And that's just, I want to tell, and I think teenage girls, I want to tell them that.
Yeah.
Like your God sees you right where you are. I still have that perspective, and I still remember how small the world felt in high school and how big all this mean girl stuff and all these situations were. My dad just looked at me and always said, these are your lions and your bears.
These are preparing you
you for what's ahead.
Wow.
I kind of wanted this to almost be a little bit of a testimony of it does get better, I promise.
Yeah.
Take my word for it. Look at my experiences, look at my life. I know you're discouraged right now, but hold on. Like you have a God that is rooting for you, that wants the best for you.
Yeah.
You know, so like it was just that thing of facing the mean girls, having to advocate for myself, going through injuries, having to rely on that. Those are my lions and bears.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Matthew West Podcast. I'm your host, Matthew West, and as always, I really hope you like it. Welcome to the Storyhouse for another great show. Man, thank you so much for all the love and the support of this podcast coming to you every Wednesday. And then, of course, our Dad Advice episodes on Fridays. I'm super excited for today's guest. Today's guest is a first-time author, 22-year-old, who has a powerful testimony of how she endured the mean girl years and just felt the Lord putting it on her heart to share some encouragement in the form of a devotional book to help other teens go through the difficult seasons of their life. It's called The Lion and the Bear. It's a 100-day guide for facing your giants. So we're going to hear a powerful story today from an amazing young person. I just got to say before we start, like I've been so fired up to see the spiritual awakening taking place in Gen Z, and I want to give a platform to those young on fire for Jesus people at this podcast every chance I get. So let's get ready for a great conversation celebrating the release of her first and brand new book. It's called The Lion and the Bear. Today's guest is Caroline Shankle. So let's go to the Storyhouse with Caroline. She's here, and it's a special day.
Yes.
We're celebrating. I should have had balloons and streamers, but
it's okay. Next time.
Your very first book.
Yes, my very first
is releasing.
Book. Yes.
It just came out.
It did.
Congratulations.
Yes. Thank you so much.
It's called The Lion and the Bear.
Yes.
It's a 100-day guide for facing your giants.
Mm-hmm.
I already love it. Your name is Caroline Shankle.
Yes, sir.
Welcome here to the Storyhouse. This is called the Storyhouse.
Storyhouse. I was talking about it earlier. I was like, this place is so cool.
You like it?
I was like, I love this. This is so cool. The ceiling, the lights. I'm like, I love it.
Well, I'll tell you why it's called the Storyhouse.
Okay.
I'm a songwriter by trade, and ever since like my wife and I, we got married. We've been married 22 years, and we have 2 kids. And my songs are supposed to pay for the house we live in, right? But my wife would always give me the smallest room in the house, right? So it'd be like, you know that one room when you walk in the house, there's like a little nothing room that kind of gets wasted? That would be my music room. And I was like, babe, I got to be able to have more space to create.
Room to move. You got it.
Yes.
Yes.
And so finally, when we moved to this house, I was like, please, can I build like this creative haven that's still home so that I don't have to be away from the family, but I can create. So this is the Storyhouse. This is where I write my songs and books, and it's also where I record this podcast. And so when I have guests into the Storyhouse, I like to think of this as a really special place where stories get told and shared in all different ways. And sometimes they turn into 3-minute songs. And sometimes I get to have somebody like you who's here celebrating the release of a new book and sharing your story in the hopes that it will, first of all, give God glory, but second, like encourage somebody else out there to know that there's power in their story.
Yes. No, thank you for having me. I mean, the Storyhouse is awesome. I mean, it's so cool to get to be here and get to talk about all this.
This is so cool. And you came all the way from San Antonio, Texas.
I did,
so
yes.
Before we start about the why of the book, I want you to introduce yourself to the people who listen to this podcast, which, by the way, I only have 2 listeners. It's my mom and my dad.
Okay, perfect.
But they're both going to buy a copy of your book.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm so ready.
I'm kidding. We may not have as many listeners as, like, I don't know, Annie Downs. You've been a guest on, but we do have some awesome listeners who I know are going to be inspired by your story. You're only 22 years old.
I'm 22.
Is that right?
Yes.
That's crazy.
I know, it is crazy.
And you're already releasing your first book.
Yes.
And writing is kind of in your blood.
It is. It is in my blood.
I've had your mom on the show.
Yes, it is. So, I came by it by genetics, I guess, by trade.
Melanie Shankle, who I got to have on the show, is your mom.
Yes.
And so San Antonio, Texas is home?
That is home. That is where I'm from.
Yes.
But so I just graduated from my undergrad from Texas A&M.
Congrats.
Whoop. In college.
Wait, what did you just do?
Whoop. So it's like what you do if you're an Aggie, you whoop. So like you have a wildcat. So it's like this whole thing. So each year, like when you're a freshman, you go like, "Hey," and then when you're a sophomore, it's like, "Hey," and then a junior, and then a junior, you're like, "Hey, whoop," and then when you're a senior, you get to whoop, and so it's whoop. So now, like whenever you go somewhere and you mention A&M and you're in a crowd, you'll hear someone in that crowd is going to 100% go like whoop, because like that's just what we do.
But you can't whoop until you're a senior or until you graduate.
Upperclassman, a junior. So you whoop when you're a junior, but you have to earn it. It's like a privilege.
Is there anything you earn when you get when you graduate other than the diploma? Is there another signal?
Well, you get a ring.
You get a ring.
An Aggie ring. That's when you get 90 hours, that's kind of the big thing you earn.
The ring.
Yes. That's almost bigger than graduation, I feel like. Like
really?
Ring day is like the big thing at A&M.
Ring day.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so can I ask one other question? Because
absolutely.
The Texas A&M Aggies have these dudes on the sideline. Do you go to the games?
Oh, I go to all the games.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm a big sports fan. So I kind of I watch and I see the different traditions that some of the college teams have, and some are a little bit strange.
Yes.
But I would put these guys that are, for those who don't know, there's these guys on the sideline. They're like male cheerleaders or something, but they're dressed. They're not dressed in like cheerleading clothes. They're dressed as like lumberjacks.
Janitors is
janitors.
the proper term. Yes. Apparently, that's the uniform. Is supposed to be a janitor uniform from way back when.
And this is a tradition.
It's
So even I might call it strange, but to those on the inside, it's like no, this is the real deal. But it is a bit.
Yes.
Unorthodox.
It's unorthodox. I think even on the inside, sometimes you're like, fascinating. The more you learn, you're like, I get we might be a little odd sometimes, but you kind of just own it. You're kind of just like, this is what we do. So
but it's like I'm going to stand by it. It's this chant thing that
you have all the different yells. You have all the there's different ones. You have to learn them, So like freshman year, instead of just focusing on classes, you're also like, oh my gosh, I have to know all these
So you
yells.
have to learn all that stuff along with the janitors, and then the janitors lead it?
Yes, the yell leaders. They lead the yells.
And is it every game?
It's every game. It's every game. It's always.
And I'm sure all of that it helped inspire the words in your new book, right?
100%.
Are there a lot of? Does every chapter end with a whoop? Or
it does. Okay. Yes, that's I throw in a tradition. You learn a new tradition every day.
Really amazing. Actually, and when you finish the book, you get a ring. Or
yes, okay. you can get your Lion in the Bear ring. I don't know if I can give you an Aggie ring. Those are a little bit. Those are hard to come by.
Brainstorm ideas. They're not all good ideas, but they're ideas.
Yes.
So you're still there.
I'm still there.
Which means that you decided to be one of those rare people that says, you know what? Suffering through 4 years of college wasn't enough. I want to go
more
back.
Pain. Let's keep going.
That's you, huh?
Yes. So I decided I wanted to get my master's. Wow. I also knew though that if I took a break, I would probably not come back and want to do more school, So I was like, we're just going to one fell swoop. I'm going to knock this whole thing out. I'm going to get the master's and just do it now. So
I suffered through 4 years of I've struggled so much on the academic side that whenever I meet somebody who was good enough to even go back after the 4 years, I'm like, holy cow, I'm so impressed. What was your undergrad degree in?
It was in animal science. Yes. Fascinating. I know.
Okay. The first thing that came to my mind was, the guy who wrestled crocodiles.
Crocodile Dundee?
Yeah, or
Steve Irwin?
Steve Irwin.
Yes.
That's not what were you going to do though?
No, I don't think so. I tried crocodile wrestling. It wasn't for me.
You did?
Not actually, no. That was one of our minor programs at A&M.
That would have been amazing.
That would have been fun. No, much more ag, so agriculture, so livestock.
Okay,
cattle,
that makes
horses,
way more sense, especially being in Texas.
Yes. So I originally wanted to go to vet school. That was my goal. And then kind of at the end of freshman year, I decided, I don't think that's for me, actually.
But you kept on with the
But I
animal
kept on with
sciences
animal
degree?
science. Well, the degree also had a lot of economics classes. It had some like production classes, some good things
Sure.
besides just like animals. So it was a really fun degree and I really enjoyed it.
Did you grow up like with a love of animals? Is that what led you to that?
I love the outdoors. So
Okay.
like hunting and fishing and being at the ranch, that was kind of always like, I love doing all that.
And what's the ranch? Your family's
The
ranch?
ranch, yes. So it's like my dad's godfather's place. So we go
Nice.
there, and I grew up. I mean, ever since I was little, I was always there. And
At the ranch?
At the ranch, yes. I was my dad's hunting buddy. So
That's cool.
Yes.
And do you still like?
Oh, I love it. I still go. I try
Really?
every fall to get out. And I mean, when there's not a home A&M football game, I usually am like, all right, I'm heading home. Got to go hunt. Gotta go
So
to the
are you
ranch."
good enough to where like you could teach like a city boy
100%.
the ways of the
Yeah.
ranch?
Yeah.
Because like I grew up in Chicago, and most of the hunting that's done in Chicago is in the main streets of the
Yes.
city, and I
Yes.
try to stay away from that.
Of course.
But like I've gone hunting a few times, and I'm embarrassingly bad.
No.
Do you know
got it.
what are the birds that? Let's see. They what do you call it? What's the bird? Quail.
Quail.
My
I was
producer
about to say
Rand is having
quail.
Okay, some people took me quail hunting, and I was such a horrible shot. I think the only one I got, and I felt really bad about it, but he was sitting in the tree,
No,
and that
hey,
didn't feel fair.
and
But
that's okay.
that's the only quail I got.
And quail hunting's hard. That's fast paced.
Oh,
That's
it
a
is?
lot. That's quail hunting can be quick. Like when you're trying to get up and you're moving and these birds are flying and they're moving all around.
Oh,
That's
thank you.
That's a lot. That's a lot to
So it
just
wasn't
be thrown
my
into.
fault.
No, it's never your. No, of course not.
Okay, and then
But-
one time I was in Texas,
Okay.
and I went. This guy had a ranch, and he the wild boar was.
Yes.
They were eating up his land,
Yes.
so he had fenced off some acreage to lure the
Yes.
pigs,
Yes.
and then the pigs were inside this like area, and we like drove around, like hunted them, kind of
Yeah.
thing, and that felt a little unfair too. But these things were mean.
Oh, pigs can be mean. They will.
Do you hunt pigs?
Yes. So usually pigs in Texas are kind of a nuisance. So
Right.
a lot of farmers have issues with them because they tear up their crops, their field. I mean, they helicopter hunt pigs.
I heard about
So
this.
my dad's like certified. He can go do that.
And he can shoot out of a
He
helicopter.
can shoot out of a helicopter
and
take down some of these pigs.
Does he eat them?
No.
You don't eat that kind of
Usually
pig.
big pigs, big wild hogs, you usually don't want to eat. They're gross.
Yeah, these aren't like the cute.
No, these are
pigs
not.
that
This is not
sloppy.
Wilbur. This is not.
These are like gnarly,
These
hairy
are-
with
yeah,
the big fangs.
with the
That's
tusks.
the one I got.
Yes, yeah, those are. You don't really want to
Oh.
eat those. Those aren't. Maybe the small ones, the small wild hogs. Some
Might be
people,
good eating.
some people eat those. Personally, we don't. But I guess you technically could if you wanted to.
Okay,
But
what's your favorite thing? No, your book's called The Lion and the Bear. That's
Yes.
not a hunting
No,
reference.
it is
Okay,
not a
I'm just
hunting
making sure.
reference. No.
But like on the ranch, like is it deer? What do you hunt?
White-tailed deer. That's
White-tailed deer.
That's what I love to hunt. That's kind of I always love hunting them, and like
goodness.
that's just what I grew up doing, and it feels like home whenever I'm out there a little
Really?
bit. So yes.
And so even though you've been in school, have you been able to get back to that ranch and be where you love?
Yes, I always try to go, on the weekends. And you think school, it's 3 hours away from home, so I can just come back a Friday afternoon, stay
Yeah.
till, Sunday, go hunting. And I always try. And I've started bow hunting. That's a new
Really?
thing I've started trying. So last year I started getting into it.
That's really hard.
It's tough. I'm having to learn. I haven't gotten a buck with it yet. I've killed a doe. I've been able to hunt doe.
From how far out?
Bow hunting is not far out. So 20 yards.
Yeah, I was going to say it's got to be
close.
hard, right?
So it's fairly close. People who are really good at it, they can shoot further and further. But I'm not there yet. Maybe one day.
I am impressed, Caroline.
Yes. But
So let me guess, your favorite song is Luke Bryan, Hunting, Fishing, Loving Every Minute of it.
how did you know? Oh my gosh.
That's amazing. I love Texas though.
Yes. No, Texas always, it has my heart. I'm like,
Yeah.
I love Texas.
Hey, did you know that I'm going to be on tour coming up very soon? The Don't Stop Praying tour is on sale now. Hitting the road this fall, a select amount of cities, MatthewWest.com, all your city and ticket information. We've got some special VIP tickets as well where we can hang out in person. Don't miss your chance to join me on the Don't Stop Praying tour this fall. Go to MatthewWest.com to get your tickets today. And so tell me about what growing up was like, other than being out on the ranch. Like, tell me about your family. Tell me about I'm curious about where faith comes in and how you found the Lord and how that became an important part of your life. Did you grow up in a Christian home?
I did, yes. So I grew up in a Christian home. I was raised in the church. I'm an only child, so it's just me. With two parents that I love, and we are a very close family. Amazing. Which is something I've always been grateful for, is how close I am to my mom and my dad. Yeah. And I grew up, I was in the same school district from kindergarten all the way till I graduated high school. Wow. So I went through all that, went to high school. I grew up playing soccer. That was kind of my sport. Okay. I loved soccer. I played it for 14 years. And then I would say for me, I always grew up knowing the Lord. I grew up loving the Lord. But there was a time when rubber met the road and my faith had to become real, you know? And I think in high school, I always had the perspective of I believe in God, I love God, I know God, but it didn't feel, I always thought religion was something adults had that, you know, they had the real, I'm not totally there yet. Sure. At some point I'll get there, you know? So I went through some hard times in high school, just with some mean girls, you know, sports drama, just things sometimes aren't easy when you're a teenage girl. And then I would say probably end of my senior year, I hit a little bit of a rough patch in my faith where it wasn't that I wasn't believing. I didn't know how to take my faith seriously, if that made sense. And it was just, I quit, soccer was finished, you know, I wasn't playing in college. So all of a sudden I was finished with this thing I'd been doing for years. And I was that kept me in line and that kept me motivated. And it's what's my why now? What's my motivation? Who am I? What am I doing? Sure, you know? Yeah. And I think that summer before college was a little rough because I was also COVID. That was kind of tail end of COVID. Oh, wow. So it was you're kind of on your own. Everything feels weird. Yeah. Things aren't going how they're supposed to go.
Yeah, the whole world's upside down.
But I was but I know I'm going to A&M. And I'm that's what I have going for me. It's I'm going to A&M. And A&M has a camp called Impact. And it's a fish camp or a freshman or transfer camp. And it's Christian. So the goal of it basically is you go and you meet fellow Aggies, people coming into A&M, and it plugs you into the body of Christ in College Station. So it's they set you up with churches, ministries, Bible studies, Christian organizations around campus. And that's really where all of a sudden for me, God met me where I was. You know, it was one of those things where I looked around and I saw so many people my age and I was you are taking your faith seriously. Yeah. But it also was a thing of, you're imperfect too. We're both imperfect, we're real, but God still loves us. You know, I think it was always this thing for me of, am I good enough to be a Christian? Do I need to have it together before I go to God? You know, and all of a sudden in that moment, I realized, he wants me exactly as I am, you know, and I'm loved exactly as I am. And my faults and my flaws do not define me. And so all of a sudden it was I can take this seriously. And my parents and I, we always joke, we talk about college because, you know, your kid goes off to college and you're what are they going to do? What's going to happen? Right. And I'm I went off to college and I became a Baptist. That's what I did, you know, freshman year.
Went off the deep end.
I really went off the deep end, you know, crazy.
That's the answer to every parent's prayer. I'll tell you that much, having sent a daughter off to college. But you know, it's interesting. I can really relate to you know, there does have to come a moment, you know, I think there's a lot of people that I've met that say, I wish I had grown up in a Christian home, right? But what's interesting is, you know, regardless of your upbringing, the enemy is trying to find ways to get you, and God's always chasing after you regardless, right? So the challenges that somebody has not growing up in a Christian home are different than the challenges that somebody has growing up in a Christian home, but there's still challenges. Definitely. Your faith becoming real to you comes with challenges. And I remember for me, I grew up a preacher's kid. I grew up in church, but for me, I tell people it was always I felt you know, Christianity was almost like the family business. Not to sound irreverent, but it was no,
100%.
It was the faith of my family. And I figured I'm going to get to heaven because I'm in the family business. But that awareness, there comes that moment where that awareness is no, God's pursuing a personal friendship and relationship with you. And I relate to you in that it was my freshman year of college where for the first time I was outside of that umbrella of, you know, he's the preacher's kid or he comes from a Christian home. And it was that was a real defining season where it's no, this, I believe in this. I remember for me, it was no matter what I was doing Saturday night, something made me find myself in church on Sunday morning. And that's when I was oh, my heart belongs to Jesus. Like, this is real. Like, this is the driving force of my life. I love that.
Yes. Well, and I think it was one of those things that's really interesting when you think about people who grew up maybe outside of, they didn't grow up in a Christian home versus people who did grow up in a Christian home. And I think it's one thing when you've heard the word of God your whole life, you know, and it's something where it's almost in a way you can sometimes become numb to it if you've heard it since you were 4 years old. Right. And then I have friends where it's like they found their faith and they found Christ, you know, when they were 20. And it's like they were hearing all these things for the first time and watching them experience that for the first time and hear it. I'm like, oh, right. That's what it means. You know, like it's a way where sometimes when you've grown up, you become a little numb to it. And all of a sudden getting the realization of, oh, this is what this means. It's just awesome.
Everybody has a different journey back to what it looks like for God to be your first love. You know what I mean? And you know, and I think the longer you're a Christian, the more your faith can feel so second nature that it stops being your first love. And that's always, and then God has a way of calling us back and helping us return to that. So can we travel just back slightly to, you kind of mentioned Mean Girls.
Yes.
And it's funny that that choice of words is something that as a dad of daughters, I have learned really, I don't know that I ever realized the dark and powerful phenomenon of Mean Girls, but it's funny, years ago I wrote a song with an artist named Leanna Crawford called Mean Girls. Yeah. And then this girl from American Idol was competing on American Idol, and she sang that song on American Idol and she was talking about how she struggled with Mean Girls. And then my daughters get into teenage years and I'm middle school, and I'm like, oh,
this is a thing.
Like when you're like a young teenage guy, you're not really paying attention to Mean Girls.
What, you're telling me teenage guys don't have the emotional depth to handle that? They're paying attention to all the things?
I'm not sure many adult guys have that. Touche. Well said. But yeah, like I think that's something that my wife and I have come face to face with as we've walked with our daughters and helped to navigate that path. But no, it's no joke, and it can really make your middle school or high school years or college or beyond. And it can really negatively shape your view of yourself for many years after that. But can we talk a little bit about that experience and how that maybe served as some inspiration for The Lion and the Bear?
Definitely. Yeah, I think it was my sophomore year of high school was when everything kind of picked up all of a sudden. You know, I'd had this friend group for a while, and, you know, I thought they were sweet, they were cool, they were good. And things just turned. You know how it is with you have daughters and stuff, girl drama. Sometimes it doesn't even need to be a legitimate reason. It's just all of a sudden things switch or things set off. And I was just really dealing with these girls who were just mean, you know, and I was getting texts on my phone. You know, it wasn't just at school something would happen. I'd come home and I couldn't escape it because I was getting messages and texts and all these things. And like I was having to block these people. And then I was scared. Am I doing something wrong? Do I need to apologize for what I'm doing? What's going on? Why is this happening? You know, and it was just so much. It was just a lot of confusion. It was a lot of hurt and it was a lot of confusion in that time. And I think something everyone always says when it comes to dealing with bullies or people being mean is like, oh, you got to kill them with kindness. You know, just you have to be above it. You have to always just like ignore it, pretend like it's not happening, kind of, you know. And I tried that for a while. I really did, because I was like, I don't want to, you know, make it angry. You know, I was like, I need to just be nice and keep my head down. And I mean, it went on for me for about 3 months. I would say it was just like every day there was something, or these girls being mean to me. And finally I remember at home, I was just kind of crying and I was upset. And my dad comes in, you know, my dad, he's kind of intense and tough and like, I love him to death. But he just kind of looked at me and I'd been like, well, I need to be nice. I need to be good. It'll be over. It'll be over. Then he just looks at me and goes, this means war. And I was like, oh, like it was almost like a light bulb where I went, oh, I'm not being true to myself. You know, like I was really trying to be meek and, you know, kind of quiet and just roll with it and try to just brush it away. And all of a sudden it was like, I'm allowed to advocate for myself. And I think I just needed someone to kind of give me that permission of, good job, oh my gosh, wait, I can stand up and I can advocate for myself in this, you know, and I don't have to do it in a way where it's like, I'm calling them names and I'm turning it back around, but you can look at them and you can be firm and say, you can't talk to me like that. You can't do this. You can be logical. I think that was the biggest thing with dealing with mean girls. And it's advice I tell everyone who asks me about how to handle a dramatic situation or miscommunication. And I'm like, always fight it with logic. Don't go into it with feeling and emotion and try to, you know, say mean names back, turn it around, because that's just adding gasoline to a fire.
Not that kind of war.
Yes.
But standing on truth.
But standing on truth and standing on logic, and just like that diffuses a situation, and it's like, they're not in my situation, they didn't argue with logic, that was they couldn't, because they knew the truth. So like learning to advocate for myself. And I think in that time when I was facing, because it was at the same time I was also dealing with soccer stuff that wasn't going well, injuries, things like that. Sure. And we'd be at the dining room table, and we'd just be talking about it. My dad would always look at me and he'd just kind of say, he would always say the lion and the bear. That was what his like thing was with me. And it always referenced David and Goliath. So he always talked to me about it. But you think David fought Goliath. We know David as this soldier who fought Goliath and won, and and then he became king and was this incredible king and delivered Israel and all these things. But before he was any of that, he was just a shepherd, and he was an unassuming shepherd. You think no one really knew about him, his father, his family, everyone kind of underestimated him, but God didn't. And before he had to take care of a nation, he had to protect his flock. And it was this thing of, he was out there in the wilderness, in the middle of nowhere, just with God and his sheep. And God came to him. I mean, God sent him the lion and the bear, and he had to fight these things. And he had to rely on the Lord and rely on his strength and learn how to fight that battle. Wow. So when Goliath came, he knew how to use a slingshot. He knew how to rely on the Lord. He had the confidence to take down that giant. And so I think my dad just looked at me and always said, these are your lions and your bears.
These are preparing you.
These are preparing you for what's ahead. Wow. Like this is practice for what's going to happen further down the road, So like, it was just that thing of facing the mean girls, having to advocate for myself, going through injuries, having to rely on that. Those are my lions and bears, and it's like, you have to kind of face those and prepare for what's to come. And so that was kind of the inspiration and the title behind the book.
That's awesome. And even though you guys were usually on the ranch, he could have said it's the pig and the whitetail.
Exactly.
That wouldn't have been as good of a book title.
I don't know how aesthetic the pig and the whitetail would have been.
Shoot. How thankful are you though to have a dad and a mom and like in your corner, like giving you that? I mean, it sounds like that was game changer encouragement to help you kind of stand up and go, all right, like here's how I can. I mean that's pretty game changer stuff. Yes. And now for you to have a desire to write a book that I like to think of, like somebody else may not feel like they got that voice in their ear, in their corner, right? I mean, just like we were talking about, I didn't realize how much in the minority I was growing up to have the mom and dad that stayed together like they did, to have the Christian upbringing, to have the type of wisdom and encouragement that they were putting. A lot of my friends, I always wondered, like my buddies would always gravitate towards my mom and my dad, like all the time, to the point where I'd get a little jealous, like, why do you want to hang with my dad so much? I look back and I'm like, a lot of them didn't have that father figure in their life, and they were getting that from my dad. So you've been blessed to have that. And now instead of keeping that to yourself, you decided, all right, I'm going to help somebody else understand the lion and the bear in their life and the giant that it's preparing them for. That's powerful stuff. I just want to ask you one other question about, like, after you got that encouragement from your dad and your mom, like, did you go into school like the next day or the next, like, did you feel like a shift in how you began to approach it, or was it a period of time? Like, I'm just curious, like how long that took you to kind of like, okay, here's how I apply that logic.
It was a little bit of learning how to apply it, because it was that thing of, I still was a little angry or beaten down or maybe nervous or intimidated to have to deal with these girls that were saying horrible things to me, like that's, no one ever is like, yes, I'm so ready to go walk into this thing where these people are going to try to tear me down, But I think there was a clarity and a perspective there that I didn't have. And so I think that's kind of one of the things I try to talk about in the book a little bit, but that sometimes God doesn't change a situation, but he changes your perspective and your mindset on a situation. So you're equipped to handle it in a different way.
Guys, Christmas is right around the corner, and we are having an incredibly special event in Franklin, Tennessee this Christmas, December 4th through the 7th of 2026. It's called Come Home for Christmas. It's our annual weekend where we hang out with a very small, select group of people that come and hang out with us for the weekend and get in the Christmas spirit. This weekend is filled with awesome festivities. We do a Christmas tree lighting downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We sing carols. We drink hot cocoa. We have a special Christmas dinner, special concerts and events all throughout the weekend. We get to hang out and do life with you and get in the Christmas spirit together. If that sounds like fun, then I want to encourage you to go to MatthewWest.com. We have very few passes left, but we would love to ring in the Christmas season with you. Come home for Christmas, Franklin, Tennessee. Join me and the West family and some incredible special guests. It's going to be amazing. I'll see you in Franklin, Tennessee. Go to MatthewWest.com to get your tickets now. Well, I was going to ask you, did you because I would imagine, did some of those enemies ultimately become friends, or was the solution, moving on from that group of friends? Like the answer is going to be different. God's going to lead us and show us what that needs to be, because sometimes boundaries need to be drawn.
Yes.
And relationships don't
yes repair. I mean, it really was one of those things there was one girl in particular who was a little bit more extreme than the others, and like it got to the point to where she would follow me into a bathroom and like corner me in the bathroom and like start yelling at me or telling me things. And so it got rough. And so I think finally there was one day where it was just, I was so tired. I was so tired of it. And I had stood up to her and she was still, and I went back to class, and there was a girl who was a year older than me, I think. And she was like one of the like volleyball girls, and she was cool, like I was like, she's been so sweet to me and kind of knew I was going through stuff. And finally, like she saw me come back with like tears in my eyes, and she's like, hey, this isn't normal. Like you can, because I always was like, I don't want to get the school involved. I don't want to tell it because that's weak and that means I'm like a snitch. But finally she just kind of looked at me and was like, hey, this is beyond, like you need to. And so I think with that girl, I knew like, I'm going to have to get the school involved, and I'm going to have to. Yes. And so, but then there were other girls where it's kind of, once I kind of stood my ground and was just honest, I mean, we just went our separate ways, and there was even some girls where they were playing both sides a little bit, they would kind of talk back and forth and be like, well, so-and-so said about you, and then, well, so-and-so. And I just, even though they had never truly done anything wrong to me, I knew it wasn't healthy. It wasn't a healthy friendship. It wasn't a healthy relationship. So I also had to sit down and have some hard conversations and just be like, I want the best for you and I wish the best for you, but also this is not, I'm in a place where this isn't going to be healthy for me, and I don't think we can stay friends like we were, and I'm really sorry about that, but I've got to take care of myself.
Wow.
So it was like having conversations like that. So I think no girl is going to have the same mean girl formula, like this is what you do and this is how it's fixed. If I knew that, I would be on a yacht in Greece right now. That's kind of, but it's learning certain personality types and learning what's bad for me, what's good for me, what are boundaries I need to set. And I think now those girls aren't really ones that I talk to anymore. But there's no resentment there. There's no ill will. I wish the best for them, but I just knew like our paths are different, and that's okay.
Once you got to Texas A&M too, it's funny. Like I always try to remind my daughters, like, this is just, a blip on the radar, compared, but when you're in it,
it doesn't feel like a blip.
No, it feels like forever, right? And being in, those high school years, but like, what do you say to the kid who's in the middle of it right now, and just hard to see past those circumstances, how big the world is, and how many more relationships, and how they're going to find their people in time. I'm sure that's probably some of the things you address in the book as well,
yes,
right?
That's a lot of what's in the book, is just kind of, that's why I felt kind of the calling almost. I mean, I am younger. I'm 22 and just finished college, but it is that thing of, I'm not far enough removed away from high school where I don't remember what you're feeling. I still have that perspective, and I still remember how small how small the world felt in high school, and how big all this mean girl stuff and all these situations were. So I think I kind of wanted this to almost be a little bit of a testimony of, it does get better. I promise. Like I want, like, take my word for it. Look at my experiences, look at my life. Like, I know you're discouraged right now, but hold on. Like, you have a God that is rooting for you, that wants the best for you, And I think something that started helping me a little bit keep things in perspective was also reminding people, well, those girls that were being mean, the behavior they're having and what they're doing, that was learned behavior from somewhere.
Right.
Like there's something else going on either in their home or somewhere else where that what you're going through, they went through, and they turned it around and they've weaponized it, and it's like, remember that people are broken, and remember that there's some brokenness there, and keep that in perspective. And that doesn't mean you have to be nice to them and coddle them, but it also means we are Christians and we're called to love. And it's like, you can pray for them, but have boundaries with them. And like, you just keep in perspective, like you have a God that loves you, and you're God, some of these people don't. And imagine how, and I'm like, we always joke at home and stuff, we're always like, we're really not that great with Jesus,
Yeah.
you know? So it's like, imagine
we
without. So it's kind of just keeping that in perspective a little bit.
And that's viewing people through the lens of grace can be a difficult thing, but that, you know, that idea that hurt people do hurt people. Like, man, who hurt you? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
There is a level of understanding and compassion that can come through that. And I feel like some of the most compassionate people I meet are the ones who've gone through seasons like the one that you described, because you learn how to be the friend that you didn't get. You know what I mean? I find that in so many different walks of life. I think just like even, you know, my wife and I talk a lot about like, you know, her upbringing and not feeling neglected as a kid, but like the determination that she has now as a mother to break those chains and recreate. It's like there's a fierceness in her determination. And I think there's a beauty and a gift in those obstacles that we face in those seasons where we learn how not to be. And sometimes the determination to not recreate what you've seen can be stronger than the determination to recreate what you've seen.
Definitely.
You know, that's a powerful thing.
Definitely.
So you're studying animal sciences and you're going, you got this idea for this book in the back of your mind for how long?
Probably for about a year.
And did you know it was The Lion and the Bear from the beginning?
No, I did not. It started as, I have a family friend who is 2 years younger than me, and she was going to A&M. This was my sophomore year, so she was about to go to A&M, and it was her 18th birthday. And her mom was like, oh, as like a birthday present, I want everyone to like write a letter, you know, like write a letter to her. And she asked me, she's like, can you do just kind of like starting at A&M and what to expect and little things you learned? And I was like, sure. And I sat down, I started writing, and I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. Like, I have a lot of opinions, and it's kind of fun to get to share them, you know? Like, that was
Were you not much of a writer before then? Or like
I enjoyed it. In like middle school and beginning of high school, I enjoyed poems. I kind of enjoyed writing. I liked being creative.
Right.
But I think I also really liked having good grades.
Yeah.
So sometimes teachers would be, well, this is fine, but we like this format, or we want this to be. So I always wanted to go with the goal of the assignment.
Yeah.
And then when you're an animal science major, you're doing science papers, research. So all of my writing became very academic and analytical. So I'd forgotten what it felt like to just write, to talk, to write, to have fun.
Until this letter.
And so it was one of those things where I wrote it, and I remember I sent it to my mom for her to proofread, just because I was like, oh, can you read this? And then she kind of called me a little bit later, and she's like, so my condolences, you're a writer. Those were kind of her words.
Why my condolences?
Just because you got to have a little bit of angst to be a writer. Writing's a little bit like pulling teeth sometimes.
Yes,
like
it
can be rough to sit there and get in your feels and try to, put it all on paper. I mean, I know you fully understand. So I think it was just that thing of, she was like, all right, buckle.
You can't run from this.
You can't run from it. You can't hide. So that was kind of, all of a sudden it became this thing where I was like.
So that was like a light bulb on moment.
Yes.
Wow. And a letter to your cousin.
Yes.
Did you write about the Lion and the Bear in that letter?
No, I didn't. I really just wrote about A&M and just kind of what it's like being
just
like
teaching
a freshman.
her what her whoops were going to be.
Exactly. A blueprint for all the things.
Okay.
No, I think my biggest piece of advice on that one was like, go to the doctor if you have a cough, because freshman flu is a real thing and NyQuil doesn't fix it. I know that the hard way. Okay. But that was kind of some super practical advice. But because my mom had her book that she was thinking about, Here Be Dragons, which is now out and has done well. And and
that's how I first heard of. My wife was reading your mom's book, so that's how I first heard of Melanie, to have her on the show, which is cool.
No, she killed it with that book. But I remember she was wanting to write a little bit about my sophomore year, and I just kind of told her, I was like, if you want like my POV in it at all, if you want me to write something just to talk to like moms as someone that's a little bit younger and knows what the daughter is feeling, like, here's what helped me and what my mom did to help me, and here's things. And so she was like, oh yeah, like we can, like that would be good. And so she kind of pitched it when she was going to different publishing houses, like maybe that's what we could do, maybe not. And then she ended up going with a publishing house, but a different one had kind of thrown back the offer to her of, oh, why don't you write a book, and then you and Caroline can kind of do a devotional, or y'all can do a little book. Yeah. And this was my end of my sophomore year, so it was kind of that thing of, I'm in college, I don't know about that. But then I started thinking, I was like, could I write if I wanted to write? Like, I kind of did a few practice little devotionals that a few of them actually made it into the book, cool. But it was just like little things I wrote, and I was like, okay, I think I like this. And then after the publishing house reached back out to her, I was like, we would still love to have a little Zoom call with Caroline and maybe talk to her. And so then I remember it was end of fall semester, my junior year. And like, I had just gone through like just a rough breakup, you know, like it was just one of those things where I'd been dating this guy for like a year and a half, and it was really like, I'd tried to pray. It's just, and I know God's hand was so like, he was controlling it, and he, you know, he was really looking out for me and had a plan for me. And that's what I knew, but I didn't know what. And it was just like, I was so tired and kind of, you know, like a little heartbroken about all of it. And I was like, okay, you're having a plan for me, but I don't understand it. And I don't know what's going on. And then 4 days after the breakup, I had a call with his publishing house. That was when it had already been scheduled a long time ago. And so I had to get on this Zoom call after, and it was middle of finals. I was like, this is awesome. This is great timing. But I got on, and I was just really in a place of kind of like, God, what are you wanting to do? Like, I know you're working, and I know this is all you, but I don't understand it. I was like, but just show me and I can do it. Yeah. And then I remember they're asking about the book, and they were kind of asking about my Mean Girl experience and all these things. And I was telling them, they're like, well, how would you write it? And I think I literally told them, well, how do you need an elephant? One bite at a time. Like, you don't think about it long run, you know? And then they're like, awesome. So we can have a contract written up for you in February or March. Wow. And I was like, oh, okay. So I'm like, I'm writing a book. I was like, okay.
That's crazy.
Okay. So then that was kind of how it all started. And then I signed it in March, and I was like, so I'm contractually obligated to write this book.
While you're still a student.
While I was still a student. And so I didn't take any classes during the summer. So I wrote it during the summer, but it was so clear that God was working through all of it and wanted that to be a thing. You know, just the timing of everything was so perfect, even though it was insane for me.
We interrupt the podcast for a very important public service announcement that starts like this. Ahoy, mateys. Okay, that was stupid, but hey, I'm excited to tell you that pretty soon this podcast will be at sea. That's right. I'm going to Alaska, and I'm inviting you to come with me. It's going to be an incredible time. July 12th through the 19th, 2026. We're going to Alaska together. And cabins have sold incredibly fast. There are only a limited number left, but I want to encourage you to go ahead and check out MatthewWest.com. Again, the cruise is already 50% sold out. It's called Storyhouse at Sea, an Alaskan cruise. Join Matthew West, me, and my entire family, and some special guests. You don't want to miss it. If you've always wanted to go to Alaska and never had the chance, if you've always wanted to go on a cruise and never had the chance, this is your chance to plan ahead. July 12th through the 19th, 2026. Cabins and tickets are available now at MatthewWest.com. And I got to say, too, like the scripture that comes to mind as I listen to you talk, and when I think about my daughters, too, is like 1 Timothy 4:12, I think it is. Mm-hmm. Don't let anybody look down on you because you are young, but set an example for the believers. It's like, I love seeing, like, I feel like I've had so many conversations lately with young people like your age. It just makes me sound like an old dude, but like, but that are so on fire for the Lord and have this desire to reach their generation. Yeah. With the message of the gospel and with encouragement and pointing them to Christ. Like, and it's like, I was talking with my buddy Christian Stanfield, who's a worship leader for Passion, and he had just like gotten done leading worship at like Auburn University, University of Tennessee, and seeing all these baptisms take place. And, but like having it be led by their peers, like there's something so powerful about that I know that's something that Caroline writes is gonna connect with my 19-year-old daughter far more than like whatever her dad's gonna write, you know what I mean? And so like you're uniquely equipped and gifted, not just with your story, not just with your gift of writing and your experience, but also with like the age proximity. Like there's, for such a time as this, is a real thing. And I think that's super powerful, that you're writing in the moment and that you're recognizing the moment, that your eyes are open to the moment and to see the unique voice that God can give you to speak to a specific group. And of course this can reach far beyond just young girls. Definitely. But I just have to say, like, as I'm listening to you talk, it just fires me up to go like, you're part of this spiritual awakening that's taking place with Gen Z.
Yes.
What are you, Gen Z? Is that right?
I am.
What are you?
I think I'm Gen Z. I'm pretty sure. I'm on the older end of Gen Z, I think. So
but not much.
But not
You're
much.
In it.
I'm in it. 2003. So
amazing. I think it's so incredible.
Yes.
So it's 100-day guide.
Yes.
Which in my career I've done I've done like multiple day devotional books or something, and then there'd be moments where I got into it and I was like, man, why did I pick 100? Like, that's so many. 100 is so many. But like, did you ever have a moment where you were writing the book, you're like, man, I should have just done 30.
There were a few times where, and I would read, sometimes I'd look at other people's devotions and I'd be like, well, she only did 60 and she's great. I'm like, if she's only doing 60, how am I going to do 100? I was like, what's going on? Yeah. And I went through, it's funny because I had my notes on my phone, like, you know, whenever something hit me or I was like, ooh, I want to write about that. I would like jot it down on my notes page just so I wouldn't forget it. And the other day I went back and I was scrolling through my notes page and I was like, oh, that's a lot. I was having to come up with like by day 30, I was like, oh my gosh, I have 70 of these. I was like, I have 70 more. I'm like, that's a hefty number. Yes. I was like, that's a lot of ideas to have, you know? Yeah. And so it was kind of...
Years ago, I did, not to one-up you, but I did a book. I had this idea. I wrote this song called Give This Christmas Away. It was like this VeggieTales thing. Yeah. It's super cheesy. But
I love VeggieTales, though. It's great.
The whole idea was like, the idea was the gift we receive when we give at Christmas. So I was like, I got this idea and I took it to Tyndale and it was like 101 ways to give this Christmas away. Yeah. And it was just short chapters. But right when I got into it, I was like, why couldn't I have done 25?
Exactly.
Or how about 12 ways?
Exactly.
I was like, how about 12 days of Christmas? That would have been way easier.
That would have been perfect.
Yeah. But talk to me about the writing process, like, and what it was like to write with your mom. Like, how does the devotional break down? Like, does your mom write a section and you write a section like you had talked about earlier, or was it collaborative through each chapter?
So I wrote all the days for the devotions. I wrote them. Okay. And then I would send what I wrote to her and I'd be like, what should I do differently? Input,
that's good.
Even punctuation.
Like to have like a coach in that.
Yeah. So it was kind of like she coached me through a lot of it. Yeah. And she was kind of like, she also would tell me things that moms had asked her about certain things. Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's good content, you know? And there were like so many
field research.
Yes. And like, she was just so encouraging through all of it, you know? And she knows the process. She knows kind of the feelings of all of it. So it felt nice because I felt very validated in a lot, you know, to where the days where I was like, oh my gosh, I have to do 100 of these. How am I going to do that? You know, she's like, no, you got it. This happens to everyone. It's just one bite at a time, you know, and she just really helped me through all of it. So it was a lot. And then she does a before the book, she kind of does a little blip,
like a forward,
and then she also does an afterward too. Love of just like different things.
That's awesome.
So a lot of it was just kind of like talking each other through different things and being like, what do we think about this? What do we think about this? Should I write about that? But that was kind of the process with that and all the things.
So let me ask you, I'm going to ask you a question that I hate being asked.
Okay.
Because people will be like, all right, what's your favorite song you've ever written or whatever? And I'm like, my answer is always like the next one. You know what I mean? But I hate answering that question. But when I think about like a work that I finished, whether it's a book or a record, there's always an answer deep down in me that's like, oh man, this one part like spoke to me the loudest, or this one song like it hits me. It just hits close to home. When you think about this journey of writing this 100-day guide for facing your giants, like if you were given like 1 2-minute moment to say like, if you miss everything else in this book, like there's this one takeaway that I hope you don't miss, or one moment that just wound up resonating with you in a deep, deep way.
Oh, there's so many, right? So many where I'm like, man, exactly I remember writing some and just like loving them so much, you know, where you're like, that one, yes, like that's awesome. I think there's one I wrote, and it's the story of Sarah and Hagar. It's about the God who sees. And I think that was one where it was like, it just resonated with me. Just talking about, I feel like so many times in high school and growing up and all these things, I felt a little overlooked. Like it was this thing of I would do the group project maybe more than the other person, but then everyone would get the same grade as me. Or I would, you know, and you're like... I
would have been the guy getting the same grade as you. And I would have been like, thanks.
You're sweet, thanks. And then, or it's like different soccer things. Like I would put in the extra practice, but then I would get lumped in with, someone who wasn't. And it's just like, dang it. Or, and I think as I got older, it was just things where like I felt hurt or betrayed or let down, or I was having to do this work, even writing this book, like it wasn't like I was going around every day being like, I wrote today, everybody, I just want to let you know.
Right.
You're
it's behind
like,
the scenes,
it's behind the scenes and putting the work in. And like, there were tears and there was frustrations and there was a lot of different things, but it's like remembering that God is the God who sees, and he sees all the toiling, all the work, and he appreciates it and treasures it. And like he sees the hurt, he sees the tears, like every tear you've shed. I mean, he has collected in the palm of his hands and has counted, and it's just like knowing that my God sees me is just something that was so important to me through all of it. I was like, you see me, you know me, you've walked before me. So I know I'm good. I love that. And so I think that was the one where it just really resonated with me.
Just like when everybody overlooked David, like the story you were telling earlier, the genesis of this book title, but God saw David when he was the last one picked. God saw David before he ever stepped up against Goliath. God was preparing David. He cares so much about each and every one of us that he's putting the lion and the bear. He's allowing those obstacles to come across our paths because he's growing us, shaping us. And a God who didn't care about us wouldn't do that.
And so I think that was just, it always hit me of my God really cares about me, and I'm like, and God really cares about you. Like he sees you. And that's just, I want to tell, and I think teenage girls, I want to tell them that like your God sees you right where you are, like listening to the sad songs, like in your room or doing, God sees you. He knows, like he's here with you walking through it. And like, he's not going to leave you right here, and like that was just something that I really wanted people to know.
The power of the awareness of God's closeness in our lives is such a game changer, and one that like the enemy wants isolation. And God reminds us throughout Scripture. I leave the 99 to find the one that He's nothing can ever separate us. I love those reminders throughout. I will never leave you, never forsake you. That's such a powerful reminder, not just for young girls, but for all of us, that God sees us. I love that you shared that. So I have what's your master's degree going to be in?
It's called a Master's of Agriculture.
Okay, so you're staying in farm world.
Yeehaw. Okay. No, but you get to customize the degree. So I get to do a little bit of some agricultural classes, some finance, some economics, some creative writing.
No creative writing?
I can do creative writing. A&M, the ag program has like ag communications and journalism.
Well,
and
they might
do
have
like
you
marketing.
Teach the class at this point.
Oh my gosh. Maybe, who knows?
Do you see more books in your future, Caroline?
I do,
because your mom already offered her condolences that you're a writer. You can't avoid it.
I can't avoid it. I really do. I think when I started writing this book, and even the other day, I'd kind of taken a break from writing after this, just because I did the 100 days. I was like, whew. Yeah. And then the other day, I was just sitting down, and I had to do like a little PDF, and I was writing it out, and I just felt such joy, and I just felt so content doing it, and I was like, oh, this is what I'm made to do. I was like, I feel like in line with the Spirit when I do this. And I was like, I want to keep doing this. And I'm like, and I know there's going to be days where, again, I'm going to be pulling out my hair and like, what am I doing? How is this going to work? But I also know like, there's so much joy in it, and I'm so content no matter the circumstances when I'm writing. And I'm like, I want to keep doing it.
I think there's some cool tests that happen. Like years ago, a publisher friend gave me this book by Marie Reiner Rilke called Letters to a Young Poet. And the book is exactly what the title says, is this older poet is writing letters to a younger poet to like teach and encourage. And it's just a series of letters. But the gist of the book is like this older poet is like challenging the younger poet to say like, is writing like oxygen to you? Like, would you cease to exist if you and it was interesting is like that I read that book as a challenge, and I was like started to take inventory of like, how much do I really love this, like how much do I want this? And of course, as a follower of Jesus, that like even if I never wrote again, I know I wouldn't cease to exist. I know God would have another plan for me, but the principle of that is right in that like and my wife and I will joke after 22 years of marriage, like she can literally tell if I've gone like more than a week without writing a song or having a creative outlet, and like it affects my mood. Like I came to the grips after reading that book and after just years of like stepping away or coming like that. I do this. I was born to do this, and this is something that is a part of me and a part of how God wants to use my voice. And I can tell that he's doing that with you. And, it'll be interesting to see if all of your future books have animals in the titles.
I know. I'm trying to figure out if I need to keep the animal theme going. I'm like, can I? We'll see.
I'm so glad that we were able to connect today.
Yes,
I'm
definitely.
so excited for you, and congratulations on the release of your new book.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me.
Well, send us out just with some encouragement. We could have ended on the God who sees, which was so powerful, but to somebody who's struggling in the mean girl world, or somebody who's facing a giant right now, it could be anything, right? But they're listening to this right now. God's giving you an opportunity to speak into their life through your book and through your words right now.
Yeah.
Send out with some encouragement today to that person who's struggling to see how this battle with the giant is going to go.
Yeah.
What would you say?
I think the verse that always comes to me for encouragement is Isaiah 41:10, and it's, "Do not be dismayed, do not be afraid, for I'm the Lord your God. I will strengthen you, I will help you, and I will uphold you in my righteous right hand."
Come on.
And I think for me, it was always this thing of, say what you're going to say, be bold in your faith, be strong, because he is upholding you. You are not holding yourself up. God is holding you up.
Amazing.
And it's like, lean in that, trust in him, and trust his timing and his planning, because it is all for a purpose.
Yeah.
And I think that was something that just always I knew. I was like, he will uphold me. He will pick me up. I will be with him. And I'm not going to be afraid or not understand or dismayed for my circumstances, because my God is a God that's a much more powerful God than my circumstances.
Powerful.
And so that's kind of
That's awesome.
what I would say.
Caroline Shankle, you're making your mom and dad proud. You're making the Aggie community proud. And most of all, I know the God who sees you is so proud of how you're giving your gifts, using it back to him.
Thank you.
Giving it back to him. I can't wait to get this book in the hands of my daughters. I know people are listening to this. They're already thinking of like, who needs to read The Lion and the Bear? Your answer would probably be everybody, right?
All the people, read it,
right.
read it, get it.
And are you trying to point people to one specific destination, or is it just wherever fine books are sold?
Wherever books are sold. Yes.
And how can people stay in touch with you? Do you send them to social media?
Yes, you can follow my Instagram, which is just Caroline Shankle, and then also my website, which is carolineshankle.com. So you can go there. That's where you can find me and keep in touch.
All right. The book is available everywhere. The Lion and the Bear, 100-Day Guide for Facing Your Giants. Caroline Shankle, a new author with a passion and a fire to tell people about Jesus. And the book's available everywhere. So you can pick up 10 copies. Pick up copies for 100 of your closest friends. And pick up some copies for the mean girls in your life, too. What a great way to kill with kindness, as we were talking about.
A little passive-aggressive here.
That's awesome. We're going to place a link to the book in the liner notes of the show, so you'll have no excuse not to go check it out. Thanks for joining me at the Storyhouse.
Thank you so much for having me. No, I love the Storyhouse. This is great.
You come back anytime.
Yes, I can't wait.
All right, that's our show for today. I want to thank my guest, Caroline Shankle, for joining me. Man, how inspiring is she? This is so cool, celebrating the release of her brand new book, The Lion and the Bear. It's a 100-day devotional guide for facing your giants, and it's available everywhere. So if you're a parent out there and you've got a teen, you want to get this book in their hands. If you're a teacher, you want to get it in the hands of a student. Maybe you just feel like you need to read this. Maybe you're facing some giants of your own. Shoot, we all are, but I love the perspective that she has, and I know this book's going to bless you. So be sure to pick up a copy. We'll place a link in the liner notes as well. That's the show for today. Thanks so much for listening. Remember, it's your story for his glory. I'll see you next week.